Introducing Worlds Within, the tabletop RPG that puts you in control of your adventure your way. Whether you're an experienced gamer or just starting out, this game is tailored to your imagination. In Worlds Within, you can be the silent hero with magical music, a genetically engineered super soldier battling through a grim dark universe, or even a humble rancher facing a quirky Armageddon of farm animals. Your story, your choice. With simple rules and limitless possibilities, it's designed for 2 to 5 players and works with any setting or character. Ready to embark on your journey? Join our community, team up with friends, and start crafting your world at worldswithin.net. When you back our Kickstarter, you'll gain complete access to the Worlds Within rulebook, the abridged guide for quick reference, character sheets, pre-made creatures, items and abilities, and an intuitive roll chart for streamlined gameplay. Don't miss your chance to be part of this gaming revolution. Visit worldswithin.net and support our Kickstarter today. Your adventure begins here.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to HMP. This week we travel back to the year 2000 when new metal meant something. We're covering ginger snaps as we close out our Once Bitten series. I'm Adam Portress, and joining me today, he'll never stop wearing his puka shell necklace, Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
Tell me your movie was made before 9/11 without telling me your movie was made before 9/11.
And werewolf, they're Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and out of all the prickly pears in the world, I'm the prickly peariest.
Today we are covering ginger snaps from the year 2000. And since this is a Canadian film, it's really more like 1997, maybe?
Oh, it's actually 1999, but we'll get to talk about that.
Well, no, even so in 1999, we're still traveling back a couple of years on account of, like, I figure Canada is a lot like, small places in the United States where, everything travels. Just like when my family got to our small town in South Carolina, they had just gotten an ATM and they were super stoked about it. And it was like 1992.
Where I'm from, the suburbs of Toronto are the future. So
you never know. Well, we're going to snap into those 2000s there and everything. Bruce, had you seen ginger snaps before this? Because since you are running our Once Bitten series here, what came about?
Of course, I've seen Ginger Snaps before this. Ginger Snaps is one of those nice werewolf movies that's always worthy of conversation. It's been talked about a lot in other places, so I figure we could talk about it here. Watched it, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago. I lose track of my seasons in the post-COVID era. Years just all run together. Yeah. But I saw it on the last drive-in within the last few years, so that renewed my interest in it.
Okay. And Sean, you'd never seen this previous, right?
No, I'd never even heard of it before.
I think I remember seeing this, I feel like 2004, 2005-ish, somewhere in that neighborhood. It didn't take off here in the States or anything. I think we all kind of glommed onto this a little bit later than, some of the other folks that got it. I think it did decently well in Canada.
I think it's one of those that showed up in those early basic cable days, like 2004, 2005 basic cable, when if something was on Spike TV, that was a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it probably showed up on something on the level of Spike TV and started getting a following maybe about 5 years after.
And what's interesting? Released. It's like, I think you're right. And this is a movie that you could edit for television decently well, I think.
Especially if it's one of those weird basic cable where PG-13 flies.
Yeah, exactly. Like your TNTs.
Or equivalent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or USA. I could see this on USA in heavy rotation.
You can get half a butt cheek on USA and don't nobody care.
Yeah.
That's fine over there. They're cool with that. But before we get into ginger snaps and everything, we do want to say a thank you to the people that helped and voted for this Once Bitten series over at patreon.com/HMP. Those awesome people help steer the ship of the HMP. We said, where do you want to go? And you guys said Once Bitten. We've been covering werewolf films all month, and thank you for that. So we've got a new vote going on, and let me tell you, this has been our most contentious vote I think we've ever done on the show. It was dead tied until I think yesterday. And it was
Wow.
just like right in the middle. We had here's
Quite the foot race.
categories. Art house, fart house, art house movies that aren't a drag got 0%. Literally, no one wants anything to do with that. So fair enough.
Yeah, good choice. We picked some weird stuff at that.
Well, you never know. You never know. Coming in the third place spot here was Tough Guys with 21% of the vote. But man, they were back and forth. I think like 38% and 38 for like just the longest time. Martial Arts Mayhem, but classics you've likely never seen jumped up to 46% in the last hour, and that's what we're checking out. What movie are we going to cover? We're going to talk about that at the end of the show. That's what we call professionalism, people. We're teasing it. Now, for those of you that just went to the end of the show and listened to it and come back here now in a cool movie, right? Pretty sweet. Anyways, patreon.com/HMP.
Do people really do that?
Somebody does it. Somebody just did it. And the fact that like he went there and listened to it, came back, and then I congratulated him on going back and listening to that portion, then coming back to that thing, mind's blown.
Just like that guy that has the Velcro colostomy bag that's hot pink and matches his socks.
He knows who he is. Gregory. Patreon.com/HMP. And if you can't do that, for heaven's sake, at least drop over to the iTunes, give us a 5-star review, aka Humdinger.
Humdinger.
We'd really appreciate that. Well, let's just go ahead and get into it, boys. Here's the IMDb plotline for Ginger Snaps. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. Two death-obsessed sisters, outcast in their own suburban neighborhood, must deal with the tragic consequences when one of them is bitten by a deadly werewolf. She lives. So how deadly is said werewolf, IMDb?
Also, deadly werewolf. I guess unless it's Michael J. Fox's Teen Wolf is the only other kind of werewolf there is. I mean, all werewolves are deadly, aren't they?
You make a good point. If it weren't for Michael J. Fox, they wouldn't have had to put deadly in there.
Maybe not.
This is written by Karen Walton and John Fawcett, directed by John Fawcett. If you've never heard of this movie before, let me sell everybody on it, because this sucker's got everything, right? First of all, dead dog right off the bat. So Bruce has nominated it for Best Picture. We got the gothiest of goths. Is your wig dart going off? It better be. Let me ask you one quick question here. Is this movie Harold and Maude? Because I think it might be Harold and Maude. We got a title sequence that really wants you to know that they've seen Seven. We've got teen smoking, baggy-ass clothes. You ain't original Billie Eilish. Get out of here. Music that can only be described as industrial. If you know, you know. We got a lacrosse game. You know what it needs? Dead dog. Don't worry. We got a fat kid in a hockey uniform messing with a dog. Sit down, Bruce. We know you loved it, okay? Shut up. We got Mimi Rogers acting all hot mom up in here. It's the filmmaker's intention to make her look bad and stuff like that, but I see past it. I see past it all. We got Canadian sorries and a boots. We got a decent wolf attack, splat pack, plenty of time to smoke doobies in the back of a van, which I presume is by a river. We got Rottweiler kicking. We got a sex ed class, a botany class, hot girl walk, the fun in the backseat of a sedan, Dutch angles galore, belly button piercing, taping down your tail. Sounded like a David Cronenberg movie all of a sudden. We got milk slipping freezer humor. Canadian Breckenmeyer is Teen Wolf. See what I did there? Teen Wolf 2. I even screwed up my own joke. Bathroom breakdown, chemistry class, a Kronos Quartet ripoff, or is it the other way around? Experimental drugs, janitor smashing, mom goes nuts, Halloween party, of course, White Fang party of one. No CGI in this movie. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Who's to say? And it's a 2000 film, so do you think we're going to get a happy ending? Don't hold your breath. This movie's got everything.
It's field hockey, not lacrosse.
Whatever.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I shot a lot of lacrosse in like 2 years ago, and so that I think that just caught on my brain, and it's all hockey sticks to me.
Interestingly enough, lacrosse, the national sport of Canada, not hockey.
I don't know whether or not that's true.
I think there's no lacrosse night in Canada.
That's true.
I'm gonna say hockey's still the bigger sport.
It feels like it's a bunch of bull, but
baseball's the national pastime. But what the heck's a pastime? You know,
it was the national pastime. Now it's just something for old white people to watch.
I need to take a nap
Like
in
me.
the middle of the day. What could we? Oh, look, baseball's on. My Thursday needed something in the middle to take a nap to.
I'm an old
love a
white
sport.
guy. Let me listen to that ball game.
I love a sport where I can take a 2-hour nap and not miss a single score.
Pretty close. All right, so Bruce, let's run down Ginger Snaps here. What do you got for us?
Well, the first thing I just want to mention is we talked about this as a Y2K production. You know, the year 2000 is what is attached to it. I think 2001 is when it got its wider distribution, but it was intended for a 1999 release. It got pushed back because of Columbine.
Oh,
How do you properly pronounce the name of the
Columbine.
school? I've been to the school before, and it looks very large and well funded.
Yeah,
Columbine. I mean, I haven't been to the school up in Canada, but yes, this was pushed back because of the obvious. I mean, could you guys watch this without having just horrifying flashbacks to the news coverage of the Columbine attack?
It wasn't as bad as like your Basketball Diaries or something like that. There are a couple others that kind of stand out more than this certainly does. But I could see, especially with like the beginning of the movie, that's what gave me the vibe more than anything. With the and also what a time it brings up with all the the self harm and cutting and stuff like that, which was very in vogue at the time.
Only a Canadian would be so considerate as to not want to put this out because it's too much like Columbine.
I do appreciate that, though. I think that's a good move. Like I for the most part, I would imagine that any right-thinking person would be like, you know what, let's hold off on that for a little bit.
And honestly, unless it's something intended for a young audience, I think horror movies set in high school are over for a very long time. There's just too many taboos now around violence in high school.
I think that's a good point,
tension.
man.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Because we're going to get a whole lot of sexual stuff about girls who are just now or haven't yet had their period. Like, could you imagine that in a 2023 release?
Not
where
even.
Girls who have not yet menstruated are having sex. I mean, this is crazy to even say it. Like, I feel like I have to look over my shoulder before I even say it into this microphone.
Yeah, I mean, like, and to think how not far in the in the past that this is now.
In their defense, they did have a 22-year-old playing a 15-year-old, so at least they had that part right. They're like, hold on, I got to go see my granddaughter. I'll be back to film the 8th grade scene.
I was scratching my head. I'm just like, where do I know this girl from? And she was in the original It.
Yeah, she's the original Beverly Marsh.
Really?
Yeah. For the made-for-TV.
The Tim
Judge
Curry
Stone
one
version.
Nice.
Oh, I call it the Judge Stone version. What was his name? Harry Anderson. So
Just
Bailey Downs is this soulless suburb in Canada. And I got to say that something about suburbs in Canada are particularly soulless. Like, I've physically visited suburbs around Toronto and out in this area. And there's something about you that's like, listen, people, you don't have to do this. Like, yes, we made this mistake 60 years ago in the US, but you have not yet made it. Leave this wilderness and this like cool cabin cottage country alone. But no, they're still building like a square of houses with nothing anywhere near it. And it's like,
leave it to an American to tell Canadians what to do.
Man, it hurts though. It hurts. It's like when you see your kid taking that first puff of a cigarette.
And you're like, oh, you got Marlboros. Gross.
Get a Virginia Slim like a real man.
Yes, a Virginia Slim.
What, these cigarettes got breasts on them?
Yes, Adam said dogs are mutilated, which, they set you up, I think, to believe the kid is going to be mutilated.
And it's so funny because, like I said, I haven't seen this movie in probably close to 20 years, maybe a little less than that. But I only remember just kind of like a tone poem, I just the feel of the movie is what I remembered, none of the real plot or anything. And I was like, are these girls killing these dogs right off the bat?
If you remember this as a tone poem, you might have been more in line with the Toke poem when you were watching.
No.
I could see it falling into that if your reality was altered, but I do not watch this and think tone poem.
No. All I think back is that's how I see it in my head.
That's how he's remembering it.
It's not a well, like I can think of the
he's
Star Wars.
He's remembering the vibe, not the details.
Yeah, I can tell you what Star Wars is about, but I can't tell you what this is about.
The creepy picture montage to open this up. You mentioned that it's wanted you to know that you'd seen Seven. I didn't really think of that, but that's a pretty obvious comparison. But I also am surprised because I did have a like a instant Polaroid type camera for a little while as a kid. I'm surprised I never did anything like this. Like, maybe not what they're doing here, but I never even like set up my action figures and took space battle pictures. I never did anything fun with my camera. I just took pictures of my friends sticking up their middle finger and stupid stuff like that.
I did like Robot Chicken ripoffs. But it was before Robot Chicken. Technically, it was more like it was Toy Fair.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like making videos like video form of what the Toy Fair comics did.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's what I kind of did a little junk like that.
No, I never had a video camera, but I could have taken still pictures.
Oh, this wasn't my camera. Believe you me.
Now, Bridget and Ginger, we find out that Bridget and Ginger have a pact to either move away or die by age 16. And the die heavily implies at their own hand, right? I mean, it's a suicide pact, right?
It's also hilarious to see this now as a full-fledged adult, because I guess when I saw this I was low 20s or whatever, but just to see the hilariousness of this now, and you just want to you just shake your head, you go, you dumb teens, you know nothing.
But that's also that's also what I meant. But when I said earlier, like, tell me your movie is made before 9/11, is that there's that kind of like anger towards nothing that people and movies at the time had, that feels like so quaint.
This is the Columbine connection, because what were their names? Eric and Dylan, maybe?
Yeah.
But they had a suicide pact. And the idea that this is a movie about high schoolers with a suicide pact, it was too close to the suicide pact at Columbine. So that's specifically Columbine.
Columbine, yeah.
Man, I'm
No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, I've seen that bling for Columbine, and it was pretty good.
It was funny watching this back again, not really remembering anything, and just seeing. I got to point out the wig stuff, because it drove me bananas the whole film. So I could only imagine how Sean was squirming.
Oh my God, it was making me crazy.
What must her actual hair look like? Like, all I can think is, how bad must her hairdo be that they're making a wig?
It had to have been short. That's
I'm
my
thinking
only
there was
guess.
too much gray in it.
But like, if you look at like her hair color, like in the It movie and stuff, like it's about that, just a kind of sandy brown sort of color. It's not quite as dark as that, but you could have easily dyed the hair. Obviously, the Ginger gal had her hair dyed and everything, so and it looked fine very appropriate to the time, of course.
Only thing I can figure, she just had like a short mom haircut, so they had to give her long hair.
Yeah,
I can't think of any reason you put that wig on her other than she just had really short hair.
But I love how this movie looks, because it is such a time capsule of the area. This looks like everyone I went to high school with. It really does.
And the movie looks like it's a time capsule as well. I mean, it's so ugly, that ugly early 2000s, like we're in your face.
I mean, I am that Gen X perfect age where I like the way this looks, because it feels warm and comfortable to me.
Oh God, it's so ugly.
Well,
it's
now
ugly.
This is going to really shock you here, Sean, but this director, long and giant storied history of television.
Say what?
I know.
So that's why this was produced by Telefilm Canada.
Yeah, it was a guy he's done a ton of work in television. If you look at stuff, you go like, oh, I've seen a billion things that this dude has done. And it's okay. Like for a TV guy going into like the thing. Also, this thing was shot in 6 weeks.
There's certain aspects to this thing that I think are done well. Like, let's cut down on the budget, so we're going to have the house be in disrepair, and not disrepair, but like they're doing work to the house.
Mm-hmm.
Like that part's cool. That's a great way to get to those scenes that you want to have. That's cool.
I love the way their bedroom looks like something out of a turn of the century mental asylum.
But that
does not match the house at all.
But I mean, that's what makes it work, right?
Yes, I mean, I love it, but I would have never thought to do it.
And I think that those scenes are the only ones where they're kind of shaping the light around these two girls too. Like it's so flat, the rest of this movie, that like to have a couple of scenes where you're like, oh, somebody's actually doing their job here. Hey, the cinematographer is actually cinematographing in this scene.
If this was shot like The Faculty, you'd like it a lot more.
I think I would. I think you're right.
Because that movie had style and panache, because Robert Rodriguez is doing it,
right,
so,
right.
Like they need somebody who goes, okay, we know what kind of quality looks like. It's like, you're okay here, but you're sorry, Canada, but you're Canada good. You're not United States good on this one.
Now, there's no ice to be seen. but there is hockey everywhere. I love that you can't be outdoors without chubby kids in full on hockey gear. Now, like I've seen kids play street hockey. I'm sure you've seen kids play street hockey, Sean.
I played street hockey.
I played street hockey.
You don't usually put your blades on, do you?
No.
Because there are kids out there in the street in their full-on gear with their blades on, like just shooting in the street, I guess, before mom takes them to the rink for hockey games or whatever.
Oh,
But,
man, their
full-on.
moms would have murdered them for putting their blades on before going to the rink. Yeah, that is a killable offense.
All I could do when I'm watching this is I'm sitting doing the math, trying to figure out if the chubby kid was Chris Evans or not. Like, how old is he now? How old would he have been then?
Does this add up at all?
Like the kid just standing there in the goal with the stick and the dog dangling from it. That looks just like my dog. Perfect shot. The best shot in the history of cinema.
I feel like I had, if not that helmet that he's wearing, a very close helmet to that years prior to this movie. It was a cheap piece of junk.
And the movie quickly introduces us to the importance of menstruation in this story. Because we get
so what a surprise at a werewolf movie.
Well, I would say it is a surprise because how many werewolf movies have been about a guy discovering hair on his nuts instead of this?
It's the exact same thing, just role reversed. I mean,
I know, but it's about time somebody did it.
In 1999, boy, it was as fresh as a daisy.
My Lord.
And it makes a lot more sense as a female story than a masculine story, or at least a story for people who menstruate over one for people who don't. Because there's the whole cycles of the moon, the monthly, the change in personality. I mean, it really makes me think that the whole werewolf lycanthrope lore should have been developed as a metaphor for menstruation instead of what it seems to have been turned into by 1930s and on, which is an analogy for male puberty.
It's called the patriarchy, Bruce.
Yeah, we rule on account of it.
Yeah, hey, don't tell me. I've been to Ken's Mucho Macho Casa Dojo or whatever it's called. I can't remember the name of it, but you know what I mean.
Oh, yes.
But we do see a field hockey bully, and this is where I was going to point out the difference between field hockey and lacrosse. But I don't really know enough to tell you the difference other than lacrosse.
One cups a ball, the other one just hits it.
Well, field hockey is is something that I've only seen girls play. I've never seen boys play.
I think it is.
hockey.
I think it is a female only thing.
You've never been to Asia. This is one like, man, for once, I'm not going to say there were no leopards in India because I know field hockey is dominated by men in the Indian subcontinent, and in the Olympics, it's a big deal.
Okay,
sweet. Then the other difference is that the sticks are different. There's not a net at the end of a field hockey stick.
Yeah, it's almost like a shillelagh is what it looks like to me, like the little knob on a field hockey stick.
Yeah.
Something Jackie Chan would slide down some sort of a, wire with.
Yeah.
And I
go down the carnival lights on that thing.
I feel kind of like we should take a minute and just to mention, and now I'm not wrong here. I have a memory of Mimi Rogers being married to Tom Cruise.
Yeah, way back when.
Yeah, we'll get into that later, probably.
Okay, so let's move on. Now they give us. I like how, sometimes I say things are subtle, which are right out in the open and hit you over the head.
Yes,
but I do like
often.
how we have this. What I think for this movie is a nice, quiet story about the parents' marriage falling apart, but these kids are so self-involved they don't even see that their family is crumbling.
Yeah, you do kind of hate the girls for being just like little bratty teenagers at this point, and you just want to smack them as an adult and just go like, what's wrong with you?
The mom just drops a line and nobody follows up on it. You guys will be alone because we're going to counseling. And then later in the movie, she wants to just run off and leave the dad. And it's like this marriage is quietly falling apart, and the girls are so self-involved with, nothing's more important than what happens when you're 15 years and 11 months old.
Yeah, and it's like, oh no, everything is just like and let's talk about this for a hot second because they do kind of drop the ball on it to a degree. I mean, they pick it up only later when they kind of have to, I suppose. But again, when I said that this is like Harold and Maude, I really think they pulled from that in as much as he was
a
always
heavily influential movie.
I mean, like they're taking pictures just like it never. I half expected Cat Stevens to roll in on this sucker. I'm telling you,
it's funny. That's literally how I think of that movie.
And much like Harold and Maude, one actor is a teenager and the other is his geriatric.
Yeah, exactly. And then they're just going around going like, I kind of like you. I kind of like you. I guess we'll hang out for a while.
I'm really being tough on the 23-year-old, calling her old.
No, she looks. Yeah, she looks like a 17-year-old kid in this movie or whatever. She looks young enough to pull it off. The hair, it's the wig. The wig just is the thing that just throws you off because it's obviously just a bad wig.
I also like that this is some authentic Canadian high school. Like the person who wardrobed, I guess is the more appropriate term, wardrobed this field hockey had actually played field hockey in Canada. Because the guys are there cheering like, ooh, shake it, make it bounce and bump. But they are under like hoodies and scarves. Like, if this was American Pie in Michigan, even though it's October, they would have like earmuffs and toboggans on, but like short shorts and belly shirts, So I do like that it was kind of funny watching the guys cheer for women who are almost as bundled up as my grandma when she goes out on New Year's to pick out.
You're giving this movie a whole lot of credit to think that these are all actors and not just a field hockey team that they threw in the movie.
You know what? Case in point. But to quote your hero, Adam, Todd Solange.
Where did that come from? Where did that come
Whether it's true or not, once you put it on film, it becomes fiction, baby.
Oh, what an interesting day it's been.
So some mysterious creature attacks Ginger. Do you guys have any idea what this creature might have been?
You have to say this about this movie. There is literally no surprises at all in this movie. It is so by the book. It is literally you could watch this movie with the sound off and you could go, here's what's going to happen next. Here's what's going to happen next.
Well, I'm going to tell you something that's absolutely not by the book is the fact that like Canadian drug dealers are really well groomed and well dressed and polite young men. Like that is not by the book. Most movies, the drug dealers are not like Will Friedle from Boy Meets World.
Yeah, he definitely looked like a Canadian version of Ryder Strong for sure.
I was going to say, your daughter brings this guy home. You're like, thank goodness he's not a drug dealer. Like, that's the first thing out of my mouth.
But there is a point in the show where the drug dealer opens up the back of his van and is furious that everyone is smoking pot in the back of his drug van. I'm sorry, but it's your drug van, my guy. What do you expect to be going on back there?
And something else that I want to just say might be different, and I could be wrong, and people may point out good evidence as to why I'm wrong. But I think this movie has Ginger begin what has to be the slowest werewolf transformation in movie history.
Now, yes, but why are you saying that as if it's a positive?
Well, I'm just saying it's different. You said it's paint by numbers.
It is paint
Adam
by
were
numbers.
Talking in Teen Wolf about how we love doing cuts. You do the whole transformation with cuts. We don't have air bladders. We're going back old school. Well, this one does it with cuts in between 20-minute one-shot takes.
I thought
it's the longest. And at first it's annoying, but then I'm pissed off when she actually transforms. I wanted to go the whole movie with no transformation.
But I thought like initially the initial attack and everything is way better than this budget should have this movie be, because it has the visceralness of an attack and stuff. They're showing you enough of the wolf, enough of the attack and everything that you kind of go, oh, it's like there's the little moments like that make you go like, okay, this it brings you back in for a couple of minutes at least.
Well, you know what this movie is that it is TV good.
Yeah.
Especially for the era. Like this movie feels like if you like I said in our text chain, it feels like an episode of Charmed watching the show. What I imagine Charmed is. I've never actually watched the show. But it feels like what that show probably is like, with the fake girl power and all that stuff. Like
It feels like something a kid might watch at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday night on like USA and feel like they've really discovered something their friends don't know about. So they roll into it.
Yes, it definitely has that feeling. And it's not the Joe Bob Briggs USA. It's the lady.
Yeah, up all night or
Right,
whatever her
her.
thing was. Yeah,
Right. I think
Now-
that's what this movie feels like to me.
Can we talk about something?
No.
That's
All
not
right.
what we
Go
do on this show.
Go
Let's
ahead.
all have 20 minutes of silence.
Just shut up for the rest of the show.
So let's talk about Ginger's tail for just a minute. That little nubbin of a tail. I found that particularly unsettling.
It's
like,
weird.
Way more disturbing than anything else.
What's even weirder is that they hardly go anywhere with it, but yet it is like it's kind of there and creepy. And again, this is where I watch this movie and all I do is pick out all of the influences that are clearly there, and all the tail stuff and everything is just so Cronenberg-esque that it's just
for a parent. There's a weird flashback to this point when your kids are trying to wear big kid underwear and they poop.
Oh no.
And that something about the tail and the dynamic it has in the underpants, because they show it from the rear way more than they need to, and it really feels a little bit like a turd to me, and that's unsettling.
Well, that's where the fake girl power stuff comes in for me, and the reason why ultimately I don't like this movie at all is because they're doing like the girls are doing it for themselves. Now here is a 10-minute shot of this girl's ass. Like it makes me so angry watching this movie where it's like it's that fake Spice Girls like see, we're doing it, and it's like, no, I'm still staring at this girl who's supposed to be 15 years old ass.
And I knew how old the actor who played Bridget was, but I wasn't sure with Ginger. I knew that Bridget was much older than Ginger, but when I looked it up, she was at least 18, despite her character being like barely 16. But I was a little worried that they were like doing this with an underage actor too.
No, thankfully she's like my age, so it'd have been appropriate enough at the time. I think she would probably been like 18 or something.
For
18,
some
19.
reason, I do love like just how matter of fact Mimi Rogers is about those horribly destroyed underpants.
What I mean, there's that bit. There's at least two bits with her that are just interstitial comedy bits that they're trying to do that never really land a joke per se. It's kind of like that's a bit gross.
There's a really weird out of place bit in Better Off Dead where they go into the kitchen and the mom is cooking and she like lifts up the pot and tentacles are coming out and stuff, and she like puts the lid back down and nobody comments on it. For some reason, I got that same feeling with Mimi Rogers in these underwear that are clearly from a murder scene.
I would have also maybe they could have done more with her character and had her just, I don't know, because I think you're right on point with that whole the subplot of the marriage and everything, and just her not knowing what's going on with her kids, and she's also quite self-obsessed as well. I think that's the biggest problem with this whole family is no one ever communicates.
Everybody's up their own ass. Like every person in this family is up their own ass.
And I like how she has her way with this Jason kid, the kid that's kind of been crushing on her throughout the movie, and he turns into a werewolf and has like his own really serious like interpersonal crisis going on that nobody cares about. Like nobody has time for the guy.
Guys are also the biggest dummies in the world, though, but because at the same time, this feels like it's very, very accurate, because a dude would be like, listen, this girl has been, throwing my advances so far, but all of a sudden she's turned things on. Okay, I guess I'll just go with it. Guys are stupid enough to fall for that, so at least I give them, I give them credit there. But you would hope that somebody would go like, doesn't this smell funny to you? That this girl who just like hated you is all of a sudden interested in you? That don't work like that. Especially, and they have these dudes all acting like the worst. Maybe I just grew up in a very nice small little southern town and everything. I never, like, for the most part, you'll have like a one-off here and there. I didn't hear a whole bunch of people ever get like kind of catcalled and stuff like this all the time. That was never really a thing, at least when I was growing up. Not to this level.
I mean, nobody ever catcalled me.
It just seems odd. It's like it feels like movies, like movie dudes, that are just like, hey baby, get it over, all that kind of stuff, and you're like what is this? Who does that?
Constant construction on every corner, but the construction workers were always ready when Julia Roberts walked by. Yeah,
and all the kids in this Canadian high school are all 80s construction workers as well, I suppose.
And then, you need like your 90s postmodern sitcom where the woman gets mad because they don't catcall her when she walks past. So she dresses sexier every day till they finally catcall her. Then she gets angry.
But they do. I mean, they do the old, the hot girl walk after she's done all her stuff and everything.
Here's what they do here, though. Now, Sean had said he imagines this is what an episode of Charmed feels like. I've never watched Charmed. I don't really have much of a vibe for that, but I have seen a movie called The Craft. And when Ginger gets like her rogue streak of white hair, and then she kind of dresses, I guess, like more alluringly or whatever.
Well, here's it.
Like
it's like the joke I made. They both dress in, which was accurate for the girls that were like that. They did dress with that big baggy clothing and stuff like that. That's appropriate.
I was going to say this movie cracked the code. High school boys are more interested in tight clothing than baggy clothing.
What do you know?
But I also like that she, now that she's got that wolf blood in her, she gives the good old Ontario beatdown to the bully on the field hockey field.
This girl, she's kind of designed in a lab to hate her. The kind of like the hot girl, I guess, who somehow is in love with the drug dealer. Huh?
I like it. I do like it though that the typical love triangle would be the drug dealer's into Ginger, right? But they have like the drug dealer is into Bridget for some reason, but only in a platonic way, but nobody sees it that way. I really like how they complicated the old spider web of relationships here.
At least I enjoyed him going like, I don't think about you like that, so shut up. I was just like, okay, good.
I do like it that it seemed obvious to her to go to the drug dealer for help.
But it's hilarious though that like this is like the drug dealer who happens to have all the plot devices in his pocket.
And I like it.
I know that here's all the botany stuff that you need to know about. You ever heard about Wolfsbane?
Well, you can't have a professor. It's a high school, so you got to have the professor character.
Professor drug dealer.
I do like the idea though that you go to the guy with the hydroponic growth experience. What I like better is that you go to this guy for his intense botany knowledge and he tells you to get wolfsbane. Like, man, all you got to do is pick up any comic book with a werewolf in it to know wolfsbane's the answer.
I like though that the way that we find this wild and elusive plant and everything is at a Michael's.
Oh, I thought it was a Hobby Lobby. I couldn't remember.
It's all the same thing. I don't know, but like she's just like, oh, we just bought this at the art and craft store. What? You just bought it in the dried flowers section, huh?
I had a note that says Mimi Rogers just conveniently picks up some wolfsbane down at the Hobby Lobby.
And she keeps it over in a drawer. Now, I do like how she holds it later and it like burns her hands and stuff like that. I thought that was a cool little thing.
Let's talk about the cool death of Trina, which made me think of what's it called? Very bad behavior, very disturbing behavior, very bad things. Very bad things. Like where they kill the stripper in Las Vegas with Jeremy Piven. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we kind of have that.
That was based upon a true story, one would imagine, with Jeremy Piven.
Yeah, well, I like
I feel like Jeremy Piven probably has killed a prostitute at some point.
I love the idea that you talk Ginger out of killing Trina, but Trina falls and kills herself basically with the injury in the milk. And of course, they have that awesome cover up, the fact that they always take macabre pictures with fake blood. Nobody bats an eye at the fact they've destroyed your kitchen. I can promise you that despite me filming a scene or two that involves fake blood, if the old wife walks into the kitchen and there's blood everywhere, it won't all be fake by the time she's done with me.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine anybody being happy to come into this. And again, you have to yell at the parents here. Look at all of the things that your children are doing. They're 16 years old and they're just like, they're contemplating suicide. I understand that your marriage is on the rocks and that's no fun. Your children are literally talking about killing themselves and you're just like, well, maybe we'll have spaghetti for dinner.
This is what happened to the American family during a time of unparalleled peace and prosperity. We had nothing better to do but hate each other.
Yeah.
So what did you think about the whole idea of putting the body on cold storage, throwing it in the freezer, fingers are breaking off?
There's part of this that is like, I get it. It's so dumb. And I kind of like the stupidity of it. Like again, I feel like this is another thing that they're like showing like 80s throwback of like, it's kind of corn. It's kind of stupid and whatever. She should look down into that freezer where she's going to put the thing. But the catatonic girl looking back up and I don't know. There's something about it. It's corny. It's stupid, but I like that corny stupid. I shouldn't though. I know.
Well, thanks to the aggressiveness of this Jason guy who's turning into a werewolf, we discover that the Hobby Lobby cure works. because she stabs him with the old stabinator.
Listen, maybe we're going to talk about, maybe it's like, there's a lot of problems when you're a young one and you're not thinking all the way. I love the idea that you've thought ahead of time and go, you know what? I can't just be jamming this into my sister's neck here and everything. I got to try it out. You try it out in the guy and it works. What if that first batch worked? Why ain't you make a double batch just so once the first one works, you don't have to go back and do your homework again. Just double up the initial batch, sweetheart.
And any good movie is going to end up with only one dose, but two people need it. I mean, have these people not even seen Trancers?
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. You need both of them. So make 3 of them all together, triple batch it, test the one. If it works, then boom, you've got 2 more ready to go, and you don't have to have a Susie makes, an anecdote segment or something.
I need to make like some T-shirts that say, if you haven't seen Trancers, you shouldn't make a movie.
Amen to that.
But anyway, so it works on Jason. But meanwhile, Ginger is killing this cool Asian janitor guy just because she doesn't like how he looks at her sister.
Why is he cool?
I don't know that he's cool, but he is a poor guy.
Smiling. He's an old janitor who's still happy about life. I had a really cool janitor named Boyd when I was a kid, so I appreciate a happy janitor.
I am suspect of a happy janitor. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, I would be suspect.
I want the janitor to at most, or at the very least, rather, have a half a scowl on his face. I want him.
Our janitor facilitated,
if not very, very angry.
Our janitor facilitated some Star Trek fanfic being filmed directly on VHS at my high school. So I endorse Boyd for that.
I thought he was going to say his high school drugs. He was a drug dealer.
Yeah, I did not. That could have gone anywhere.
So like, he was real famous around the high school for giving us all smack.
My fix involves Star Trek TOS. So the weed guy's having a big Halloween party. And of course, if you're having a big Halloween party and there's a girl who's becoming a werewolf, well, she shows up. She tries to do him. He says no, so she tries to do him in. And then Bridget shows up and they become blood brothers.
Now, let's talk about like her descent into werewolfism, if you will.
It's werewolfery.
Well, werewolfery. I don't like this final form here and everything. The hair is no good. It looks too Buffy the Vampire Slayer for my taste.
Dude, that's exactly what I was going to ask you next was how does this in the timeline, where does this relate to the television show, not the movie, but the Buffy television? Because man, if this doesn't look like David Boreanaz as a female.
I'm not sure when Buffy's at. It's not too far off of this one way or the other.
Yeah, I don't know which is the either and which is the or, but there's some overlap in that forehead wrinkling.
But at the same time, too, I mean, I suppose you could say, even really look back to that look, even kind of starting out a little bit in Dusk Till Dawn. Still had a little bit of that. That was more of a vampire-y thing, but just that kind of style of face, I guess.
I once saw David Boreanaz. Is that how you say his name?
Boreanaz.
I once saw him from a distance at a con. Like, I didn't get in his line or anything, but I saw him from a distance, and it was amazing how much his face kind of already looks like that.
I mean, well,
he's got like a little bit of a flatter face and a big forehead. I don't mean that to be insulting, but
no, he looks like a comic book drawing is what he does.
Yeah, some stuff that I thought was makeup was actually his bone structure.
Yeah, that guy looks like a Batman the Animated Series character.
But the whole blood brother thing, I thought the purpose was going to be that Bridget gets infected.
I thought it was too.
And they really kind of take us down that pathway, and then we see, psych, it doesn't work that way, I guess.
At the same time, though, while she was doing that thought did cross my mind. I was just like, do you know that this works like this? I mean, like, because we don't even get like the scene where she's scouring books and stuff, learning about werewolves. There's no public library scene, or since it's the year 2000, there's nobody looking up on Netscape Navigator.
Yeah, man, that would have been cool.
We need to learn something about the lycanthropes and all that kind of jazz. She reads a book for like 5 seconds and then just goes, you know what I know? Everything about chemistry and blood brothers being werewolves. Huh? Okay, sure.
And then, like, out of nowhere,
you just gave yourself werewolf AIDS or something. I don't know.
We get a shovel to the head, which apparently is enough to give a werewolf a concussion, but it also triggers her to go into her final form. She goes full-on werewolf Super Saiyan here, where we do get the quadrupedal puppet broken out. How do you feel about the alopecia type appearance. Like even in the full, and I think they're trying to say something about it being a feminine werewolf instead of a masculine one, to have less hair and look more like a naked mole rat. But I just thought it looked cool because it looked creepy as a naked mole rat.
May your first werewolf be a masculine werewolf.
That's the Moon Father.
It's weird. Like, part of me, there are, like, watching the whole scenes and stuff with this final form, I liked it and hated it at the exact same time. There were moments where I'm like, ooh, that's good. And then like, oh, gross. No, you should have cut that part out. And like,
I like that they went practical, because I can only imagine what they would have come up with as a CGI werewolf for this.
Yeah, in the year 2000, like 99, when they were probably producing everything, this would have been atrociously
I'm just thinking of
bad.
Malbolgia from Spawn.
Oh yeah, like that level where like you pray to God somebody comes in and does a recomposite years later because maybe we can finally have the technology to make it look like it belongs there, as opposed to just being, looking like an animation cell on top of, moving film.
Yeah.
And Sean, dare I ask what you thought of the werewolf puppet? The four-legged puppet.
I mean, for what this movie is, it's fine. I think again, it's like it's all TV fine. You know what I mean? Like, I can't remember which Star Trek it is, but there's that one Star Trek where there's a shapeshifter who is on the ship, and he shifted shapes all the time on the show, and it always looked just awful whenever.
Odo?
I guess that's
Odo's shapeshifting in Deep Space Nine.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so he's like a security officer, am I right?
I think so.
And every time he shifted his shape, it just looked just god awful, even to me as a kid.
Yeah, it's so like 1/16 the budget of The Abyss.
and that's what I mean. I mean, so to get to the werewolf puppet, I mean, it's for what this is, it's fine. I find it far more offensive that they're like, no, this is for girls, and it's like, there's no way I'm showing my kids this, like when they're around that age. There's no way.
Yeah.
It felt okay then. Because I remember back, because my initial thought of this film was like, oh, I remember liking this well enough. Again, I look back, it's just a mosaic in my mind of like, feelings and stuff, but because I couldn't really remember. And again, that was also another time where you're just devouring a lot of horror films, and then stuff all kind of gets, amalgamated and jumbled together and whatnot. So coming back to this, it was just like, oh, okay, it was almost like watching it for the first time.
Sure.
But yeah,
there was not a scary moment in this scary movie, though.
I don't. Is this movie calling itself scary?
It's on the horror aisle if you go to Blockbuster.
Yeah, this would be in a horror section for sure. I don't know that, you certainly wouldn't put it in a suspense thing, because I think with the werewolf thing automatically just kind of throws you into the horror.
Supernatural. It's got gore. It's kind of like if it's got gore in it, it's probably going to be put in horror.
Some of the gore effects are okay. Some of the makeup is fair. Some of it stinks. Yeah. It's like it's a little catch as catch can with some of this.
But we get our big finale. The obligatory indie turn of the millennium dismal ending, where the Ginger is in werewolf form and she faces Bridget, and the choice is the syringe or the blade, and of course she gets the blade. And she dies forever, which means we're all going to be shocked next week when we watch Ginger Snaps Back.
I think how many they make? At least 3.
There's three,
but one's a prequel. So Ginger Snaps Back was part 2. Part 3 was the prequel, and they filmed 2 and 3 back to back. And there was talk of a TV show in 2020.
Really? Oh, yeah, darn, COVID knocked it right out the gate. If it weren't for COVID.
That's the only thing that stopped it, I'm sure.
Gosh, I tell you what, man. We lost a lot of things on during COVID. Ginger Snaps, the TV series, was one of them. That's a tear.
But, I mean, it probably could have been like streaming on Crave in Canada. I mean, who knows who's developing this?
That's available only for streaming on Crave in Canada. Outside of Canada, no, sorry, Bob. We don't do any of them.
Oh, so it's Ginger Snaps 2, Ginger Snaps Unleashed. Then 3 is Ginger Snaps Back, the beginning. Oh. And then it looks like there might even be a 4th one called Ginger Snaps, Blood, Teeth, and Fur.
That sounds.
I don't know about that
It's a documentary. It's about making. Okay.
Wow.
one.
Well, we were in Canada, right? And we had 6 weeks to do a production, see? And we had to slap everything together and put it out to the film as much as you can.
Look, I don't know how you do things in Vancouver.
But here in Toronto, we work hard, damn it.
Now, the original ending, for no reason, had a dog start flying like a super dog. And they said, no, that was too Canadian of an ending. So
That would have been the greatest ending to a movie ever, even though it's already been done.
Gives a thumb up and winks to the camera.
I guess I only have one question left. And that is, how does this movie relate to one Sylvester Stallone?
I have a prepared statement.
You don't say now.
Miriam Spickler was born in Coral Gables, Florida in 1958. She's in this movie playing the role of Pamela, and she was on an episode of Las Vegas that also guest starred you, Sylvester Stallone. But I hope you brought your wood screws because you're about to have your doors blown off because Miriam Spickler is better known as Mimi Rogers. Go get them wood screws. Mimi Rogers has acted in 114 different projects at the time of this recording, but is probably best known for being married to the king of Scientology, Tom Cruise. In a Playboy interview in 1993, she said, and I'm quoting, "At least for that period of time, it looked as though marriage wouldn't fit into his overall spiritual need, and he thought he had to be celibate to maintain the purity of his instrument. My instrument needed tuning," end quote. Fearing retaliation, she later retracted her comments, and I'm unsure if this worked, but in the year 2000, she would play the mother in a movie called Ginger Snaps. In the mid-90s, Mimi Rogers packed up her thetans and left Scientology, somehow avoiding the massive smear campaign they usually do to former members. Maybe she's so nice that no one wishes her ill. A guy can hope. And there you have it, Mr. Stallone. This week's Stallone connection is Mimi Rogers. I hope to hear from you soon. Your pal, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
I think the biggest thing is that it's extremely difficult to be mad at someone named Mimi.
The first quote I ever heard from her or read from her was in one of my mom's copies of Star Magazine, probably about 1988. I don't know when they first got split up, but she said they couldn't agree on their sex life. She wanted one and he didn't. That was her famous quote that I saw back then. But I didn't know he was literally being celibate. I thought she was just making a joke.
Well, listen, the man is 68 years old and at the top of his form. So who are we to sit there and say that he made the wrong decision?
Something's working because he still looks amazing.
So
you know what? I tried it. Didn't work for me.
I've been trying it, but I was just didn't want to. Anyway, so let's get down to it here at HMP. We got our own patented Robin rating system. Bruce, where does Ginger Snaps fall in the Robin rating system for you?
I mean, it's just a straight up Damian Wayne. It's a curiosity that's worth checking out, but I'm not going to make any promises that you're going to love it. But, inquisitive minds should check it out. I do think it's a little bit different of a werewolf story. It's a conversation piece, and it's not that long, is it? It's still sub 2 hours.
I that is one thing that I was gonna wait, but like it's over long. This thing you could chop 20 minutes off of this, and it was probably a better movie on account of it. I think you could easily take out 20 minutes because it's like
20 minutes. How long is it?
It's 148 right now.
Okay, so you could take 20.
You could take 20 out of this easily. And there's stuff to cut.
I don't know that I've ever in my life seen this movie without interruptions. Like
which by the way, also hilarious. Watching on Prime and all the freebie commercials or whatever the hell's in the middle of it, or old Sean Hayes and what's his nuts going out there. By the way, is
the other Teen Wolf and Sean Hayes.
The other Teen Wolf is what's this? Is the other guy is the third party? Oh God, is Will Arnett like? Is he just like? Listen, I ain't gonna be taking no Verizon money. You can cram it with walnuts. Is that why he ain't in that?
I feel like he may be the closest to like. I don't know, man. Bateman's got to have a ton of money. I think he just likes doing stuff.
I do too. I think Bateman is
there's no way Arnett has more money than Bateman, is there? But he might.
There's a really good possibility, man, because Arnett does a lot of executive producing for shows.
Plus, he's been in some real big hits, and like Bateman's hits have been like,
I think Bateman
people
likes the
love
payday,
them, but they don't make a big bunch of money.
I think he likes the payday because like he was in a Hyundai commercial probably 2-3 years ago. I think he likes the bread.
His biggest career achievements are Ozark, which is Netflix, so there's no residuals there. And then Arrested Development, which got canceled a famous like 7 times or something. So there's not.
We need another game night movie. I'm telling you that right now.
He was executive producer of Ozark, though. Like that's a very different animal than just starring in.
Yeah,
something.
but I think with Netflix, you sell it and that's it. I don't think you keep making money. I think you make your money once from Netflix.
Oh yeah. He's not getting big.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not like the old days where if Ozarks was on TNT and syndication, he's making money out the butthole.
Money out the butthole. Sean, where does Ginger Snaps fall in Robert Ray's system for you?
As Adam Portress always says, the thing that's worse than a bad movie is a mediocre movie.
I say it all the time.
You say it all the time. I can't shut you up about it.
I only say it when I'm quoting Adam.
And this movie is absolute mediocrity at its finest. And it's like, it's an ugly movie. It pretends to be like a female empowerment movie when it is clearly not.
A woman wrote it, Sean. How can you say these words?
I'm sure she has written in the script, please linger on girl's ass for 20 minutes. I'm sure that is.
Hey, it was the 2000s, and that's what we had to sell.
And so for me, like this is like I made people sit through Murder in Space when it was my time, and I feel really bad about that, like because that's a really awful movie. This is Bruce's Murder in Space for this month. This was a tough one to get through. I feel bad now about adding it on. I could have just put Monster Squad on here. So this one for me is what is it called? What is it?
Stephanie Brown.
Stephanie Brown. So it's a Stephanie Brown for me. This is the worst kind of movie there is. It's a Murder in Space for the werewolf set.
That is a poster quote. When that 25th anniversary comes out, boy, oh boy, here we go. For me, this is we're looking like a low Damian Wayne. I think I probably would have thought Tim Drake initially, if you'd have just.
Wow, really?
I would have thought that. I would have thought that would have been my grade because I remember liking this, almost
this movie
20
made
years
more
ago.
of a splash than I think you realize just because it wasn't your scene.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, of the time when people started discovering it and stuff, it was kind of like it did feel like a fresh and new thing at the time for a hot second, and like it was
there were people who unironically thought this was just like Ghost World, like this was on par with something.
Oh my god!
I don't know about all of that.
Oh my god!
I need to see. I feel like I got there may be an old issue of Fangoria or something I had that's got some Ginger Snap stuff in it.
There were lady edgelords who really thought this was the beeswax.
Listen though, I mean, I knew a lot of goth girls in high school and stuff, and like now, while this was like post me being in high school, like I could see if I was removed by a couple years, some of those chicks probably would have liked this thing. I mean, the same girls that had all the 9 Inch Nails albums, those chicks. But yeah, I can't recommend. I mean, like I said, I think it's for an interesting time capsule of the late 90s, early 2000s and stuff. It's worth a watch for that and just see the low budget Canadianness of it all. But you can't be screaming about it because it's just okay. That's all.
Yeah.
It's just okay. That'll do it, everybody. Once Bitten has wrapped up here and everything. And like we said, we threw it to you guys for the vote for next month here. And you've chosen classics that you've likely never seen before. And we are going to be covering a very interesting movie because I know I just whined a little bit about how this movie was like an hour and 45 minutes. The movie next week is a rather long movie, but I think it's going to be different and hopefully good for us because
what makes you think that?
Well, most of us have seen an Akira Kurosawa film at one point or another. Perhaps you've seen Rashomon. Seven Samurais is a very likely one for most folks.
Did he do the third Ninja Turtles movie?
The third Ninja Turtles movie. We don't talk about that one too much, but that was his little stumble in 1991.
Sure.
That'd be hilarious if he did. That would be what an epic that would be. If like that's what killed his career was he decided to do Ninja Turtles 3 when they go to Japan.
So you're saying that we should give Kurosawa more rope to hang himself than John Fawcett, the director of Ginger Snaps?
Plenty.
Okay.
But
all
no.
right. I guess I'll follow you there.
I hate to
Portrait.
tell you this, but John Fawcett was known as the Canadian Kurosawa for 6 months.
Or television Kurosawa. Get it right. But no, so we're not covering a samurai film from a Kurosawa. No, this is classics you've likely never seen. And we're going to be covering his 1963 film, High and Low.
Lovely.
That's available on HBO or as we like to call it, Max now, because that's what's appropriate. I got to call it by the real
Max.
thing.
What its parents named it.
It's what
Max.
or it's available, or for your snooty art house nerdo like me, it's also available on the Criterion channel with a whole bunch of extra features and stuff. So if you want to be that nerd, you can check out that stuff as well.
Where the wild things are, Max.
And we're gonna take this here show to the max all next month.
Whoa!
As we cover classics that you've likely never seen. And if you want to be those people that help support this show and vote all of that stuff, head over to patreon.com/HMP. And thank you to all those folks. And again, help our buddies over at pardon me, The Worlds Within. Those folks, they are almost halfway to their goal here with 21 days still left in their campaign over Kickstarter and everything. Please check that out. The link is in the show notes for that. That is it, everybody. Join us next week when we're talking high and low. For Sweet Sean's and Kovacs from the internet, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.